Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I hope everybody's doing great. Look, my name is Misha. I am not a doctor. I am not a scientist. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm just a real person like the rest of you all. And I was suffering with a number of health issues that medical doctors were not able to fix for me, that nutritionists weren't able to address. And I found a system that helped me start to get better, even though it wasn't I was trying to address diabetes and some weight loss, and it ended up addressing so much more. So that put me on a path of finding out why so much of my health changed by doing one simple thing. And that led me into talking about insulin resistance because it's at the root of almost everything we suffer from today. So if you have high blood pressure and you have muscle cramps and you have skin tags and you have headaches and you have fatigue and you have cravings, all of this stuff, that's painting a pretty big picture that there's a metabolic disorder going on. So that's what I talk about. This is what we do. And I do the best I can to share the information I find with you guys. I am in no way ever claiming that this information is mine or that I'm the brilliance behind it all. I just round up what I can find and bring it to you. So each week is a little bit something new. Today I wanted to talk about inflammation. So welcome in and welcome to this chat about inflammation. Let me get this back up here. So I want to say I'm not ready for this. I'm just not ready for this today. Not ready for this because when I looked at inflammation and started diving into it, I'm like, okay, this is interesting. This is something I want to look at. Holy cats. This is a way bigger topic than I would have ever expected. And it's going to take some more research and some more information. So I'll give you what I've got today. It's not going to be complete. We'll continue the conversation another day. Now, what I do want to talk about is this whole role. We're going to start, I always called it circular, but one of the scientists called it bidirectional. And I think that's an even better term. So we're going to go with bidirectional. There are so many disorders and ailments that are bidirectional with insulin resistance, meaning they can make insulin resistance worse. Insulin resistance can make them worse. Inflammation is definitely one of those things. We always talk about sugar as being the big cause for insulin resistance. But let's shift gears for a moment because there's something that's causing your sugar levels to go up besides what you're putting in your mouth, and that's inflammation. So this is interesting. We're going to go over a few things this morning, what information I have. Again, not promising it to be complete, just saying I'm going to give you what I got. Okay? Now, inflammation, when you are starting to have a cold, any kind of inflammation in the body, your blood sugar levels are going up as a response to that inflammation. So I have people say, well, I've been on the system for a couple of months, but my sugar levels are still high. Well, there's a lot of other things that could be causing, if you're addressing the insulin resistance, if you're doing the protocol the way it's supposed to and your sugar levels are still high, you are probably either overly insulin resistant or your body's full of inflammation. So the protocol that I talk about is a major piece in addressing this, but let's not play. There's a lot of other things that we can do to help insulin resistance. Moving your body, getting exercise is one that we all know. I think all of us know that we need to be moving more than we do in today's world. But one of the things we're not paying attention to is inflammation. So inflammation, when the cells start to become inflamed, let's get a little bit of a visual. They're going to start to swell up. So say you have a cell and you have these receptors, hormone receptors poking out of the cell. Insulin receptors, maybe estrogen or other receptors, but there's also a number of like leptin receptors, a number of things on these cells. Now, as soon as these cells start to get inflamed, they're kind of puffing up. If you've seen a part in your body that's inflamed, it gets kind of swollen, right? Well, as that cell swells, those receptors are less able to do their job. When we have swollen cells, the receptors to insulin start to get shut down, and now you're not able to use insulin as well. Was it caused by the excess sugar in your body? No. It was caused by inflammation. Now, big news, sugar can cause inflammation, so we're still not letting sugar off the hook. sugar still is a major player, but let's look at this thing called inflammation. So it could be maybe you had a surgery and you notice for a few weeks later your lipid levels are off, your sugar levels are off. You have inflammation in the body. Maybe your blood sugars are going up and you're just not quite feeling right, and a few days later you get a cold. It was inflammation driving sugar levels up because the sugar can't get into the cell that's inflamed. So the sugar levels are going up not because you're eating more sugar, not because of any of that, but the insulin is not able to deliver it as well. So inflammation plays a huge role in your insulin receptors and therefore the amount of sugar that's coursing through your veins. Um, yeah, Melba. So, and that's the key, you guys. We're going to talk in a little bit about, okay, the two products that I use are helping with insulin resistance, but there's components. So I'm not going to say that the studies were done on these particular products, but these particular products are in place for metabolism for a wide variety of reasons. We're going to go over how the two products in the protocol actually can help with insulin resistance and inflammation. So we're going to get to that in a minute. And Melba, I know you've been on the protocol for a while. So let's talk about some other things that can cause inflammation. And then we're going to get to these things that are helping reduce the inflammation that we've caused. So we all know that our foods are well, we should know. How many of you guys understand that our foods primarily are highly toxic, especially when we're talking about bagged, boxed, produce, produced foods? Those foods are becoming more and more toxic to our body. The toxicities in those foods, the chemicals they're using to produce them, and the processes that are stripping out pieces we need to keep in balance are causing a lot of cellular inflammation. Now, I love to talk a lot about how everybody's diet, like peppers, I love bell peppers, but they're kind of inflammatory to me. So even though I love them, I know that I shouldn't eat a lot of them. But for somebody else, they could be extremely healing. So it's really important to start paying attention to what you're eating and when you're feeling these small markers of inflammation. I'm going to tell you what some signs of inflammation can be in a little bit, but we're going to go through this. So Melba says, I need to move, but some days when you hurt, it's hard. So I get that too, because I was there for years, Melba. I felt like I couldn't even get off the couch. What I want to say, and I fall into that now. I'm tired. I work a lot. Like I'm not as tired as I used to be. For God's sakes, I never want to go back to that. But there are days when I'm just like, maybe not because I'm tired or hurting, but just because I'm so busy and have so many things to do. It's hard for me to find time to put movement in. But I will tell you, yeah. Bell peppers, tomatoes. I mean, you guys, you can do is if you have insurance, get an allergy test. It's crazy, and make sure you're doing a food allergy test. Make sure you're doing an environmental allergy test. So I want to finish this with the food. So movement, and then we're going to talk about environmental allergens and inflammation as well. But if you're moving, a body that's moving is starting to get this stuff going on. You're getting cellular turnover happening. Your cells are open to the insulin and they're wanting that energy, and movement is so very important. Now, the more you start moving in a gentle way at the beginning and work up to it, you're going to notice that the pain starts to go away, but you got to move. Part of the reason we're in pain, and that's a whole other topic, is because we're just not moving. That inability to move, that can actually cause some inflammation in the body as well, a diseased state in the body. So we have to move, you guys. We have to move. We have to eat right. We have to pay attention to what's causing the inflammation. So Melba, it's not lost. You guys, there is the app that I've been using, and I tried it out because I wanted to find an app that was gentle for the people who can't get out, don't have a gym membership, feel like things are just really hard. So I am not an affiliate for them. It's just a little app that works, so I want to share it with you guys. It's called Walk Fit, like walking fit, and you can do it right at home. I don't know, it's less than $20 a month, but I think it was like $29 for 3 months actually. But it's going to give you daily workouts. It's going to track how much you're walking. So you can do that. It's a gentle walk. It's not crazy cardio, but you can do it at home. That's going to get you up and moving. And that's why I looked at it, because I want solutions for people that are realistic. And let's be real, most of us with metabolic disorders, with all of this going on, are having some kind of pain that it makes it really hard for us to move. And that pain derived from inflammation. So we know that there are certain foods that are inflammatory to many of us, and we need to find out what's inflammatory to you specifically. Because crazy thing, Melba, we mentioned bell peppers, but yeah, tomatoes, I love tomatoes, but I know that I get really sick. I have gastritis when I have too much tomato. So I've had to make sure I don't have a lot of tomatoes in what I eat. I have them as a treat every once in a while just because I want them, but they're not a big staple because they're highly inflammatory to me. I think you're absolutely right, Melba. Tomatoes can be highly inflammatory both due to the lectins and the acids in them, for sure. But crazy enough, this is why I bring up, you got to figure out what's right for you. Because one other thing that's highly inflammatory to me that you wouldn't expect is cantaloupe. Who would expect cantaloupe to be an inflammatory food? It is for me. So it might not be for most people, and you wouldn't expect it to be, but it is for me. So it's really important to understand your body, what works for you. And this is why I don't really do a big list of foods or diets and whatnot. I'll let other people do that because I just don't have time, honestly. And I want you guys to know what works in your life, what you have available to you, what works for your body. It's going to be different for every person on every continent, in every state, in every community. It's going to be a little bit different, right? Some other things that were inflammatory for me are navy beans and walnuts. Who would expect that? So you guys got to start to take a look at how your body feels when you eat certain foods. Some other causes of inflammation would be things like environmental factors. If you have allergies, that's causing a lot. And I've had a lot of allergies lately because I'm in a new area. I'm not used to all of these plants here. Allergies, that response is actually causing an inflamed response in your body. So trying to stay away from allergy inducing products is going to be really helpful to you too. Good morning, Bestie. Besri? I can't read that. Okay, you guys, good morning, everybody, and welcome in. So while watching you, good. You know what, you guys, I've actually thought about they're in the nightshade family. Absolutely I think that everything in the nightshade family is and this is my opinion. I want to say my opinion. I know there's science out there about it, but I don't have the science to back it, so I'm going to say my opinion. But we've known that nightshades were highly toxic and highly inflammatory to us, so toxic they would be considered poisonous nightshades, but they've been cultivated into something we can eat. Um, and so then we've gotten crazy with it. Another one that's really highly toxic and I don't even care because it's truth. Cashews in their raw state, they're very highly poisonous. They process them to reduce the amount of poisons. This is why so many people have an allergy reaction to cashews. So there's a number of foods. Figure out what is causing your body trauma and get rid of them. Reduce your time around toxins. Like, I mean, we're all around smog and that stuff. We know that those are onslaughts on our body. So we're constantly being inundated with these environmental toxins that are causing us to be inflamed. What do we do? Well, the best we can do is to take care of the environment we live in, work in, as best as we can, and mediate the other factors as much as we can. But inflammation is also coming from trauma. Now, when we say trauma, we could think about like a broken leg, a cut, a bruise. You banged your knee, you twisted your ankle, you fell down. Those things, thank you, world famous. Those things can all cause inflammation. And again, that inflammation, I'm going to explain in a little bit how the inflammation starts to, well, we already did a little bit because it's causing a problem with insulin receptors, but that's causing some more insulin resistance. But what we don't often think about is trauma, as in emotional trauma. You're still having a response in your body that can cause some inflammation when you're, with a narcissistic partner or somebody who's just gaslighting you all the time, and you're just in a perpetual state of emotional trauma, or you have some type of PTSD and you're revisiting that trauma. That can cause a lot of inflammation in the body as well. So this whole inflammation thing is a huge piece to our insulin resistance that we all need to start to address. And there's a number of ways that it's happening. But understand that when you have insulin resistance and you have trauma, your blood sugars will go high. So if your blood sugars are staying high and you've been doing the system, we maybe need to take a look at some other environmental factors that are causing you to stay inflamed and causing that increase in blood sugars, because of the little bit of insulin resistance in the cells and because the body's trying to get energy to mobilize all of this immune stuff that's going on in the body. I've talked before about how when cells get really inflamed, they start to shut down to a number of things because they're trying to protect what's inside. They don't want more inside. They don't want more energy to come into a cell that's already overridden with oxidative stress and inflammation and feed that inside, so they shut down. They're like, nope, nope, you can't come in until this thing that's going on inside is resolved. So again, you're not getting it in the cell, the blood sugars are going up. There's a lot of reasons why your blood sugars could be high. It has nothing to do with the fact that the system isn't working. It has everything to do with the fact that there's multiple other things going on with your body that you probably need to address. But the worst thing you could do is to stop doing something that's helping. That's what I wanted to get out this morning. Now, inflammation, let's talk about it. Melba says 12 weeks, hubby back to work from knee replacement. Now back to me. Yay. So yeah, you guys, I want to say that too with inflammation and healing and insulin resistance. So a little personal story. Most everybody knows my joints were eaten up by insulin resistance. I have a right knee that was supposed to get replaced 3 years ago and didn't have to get replaced. And it's been amazing. The knee hasn't hurt anything. But the other day I was walking, doing my morning walk, and there's one part of the path that I don't go on very often. And most of the path doesn't have any steps, but there's just one random step in one spot that I wasn't looking and I didn't see the step. So I stepped down wrong, hyperextended my knee. And a few days later, the knee was extremely painful. I tore up a bunch of stuff in that knee and I couldn't straighten it out for a while. It was hard to get up and down, but it only took a few days for that to heal. Okay. Now I'm back up and walking. I'm going to go paint my son's house today. I'm going to do a few things, but I wouldn't have healed this quickly had I not been doing the system consistently. And we're going to go over why the system is helping with inflammation in a minute. Both the tea and the pre-meal drink have components in it that have been proven to help with insulin resistance and inflammation. So yeah, recovery from injury is much quicker when you've got the insulin resistance under control for the most part. Now your body can focus on healing instead of fighting all this other stuff. So getting your insulin resistance under control and keeping it there does seem to be helping people. And I don't say seem, it is helping people start to heal much quicker. When I started, I also had, I had to have a hernia surgery. That was one of the reasons I started in the first place. I had a hernia. My insides would poke out my belly button like the size of my fist every time I tried to sit up or engage my abdominal wall. But the surgeon refused to do surgery for me until I lost 15 pounds. And at that point, I was unable to lose weight. No doctor was able to help me. I had been through gym bro and nutritionist, and they were writing plans, and nothing was working. This protocol worked. Within the time that I had to go back to see that surgeon, because she gave me a few months to lose the weight, I had actually lost 25 pounds. And she admitted that she thought I was never going to lose the weight. The protocol is what did that for me. But when we scheduled the surgery and I did it, I had these drains coming out of my tummy. I had a trip that I was wanting to go on. The timing was tight. I'm like, I got this surgery going on. I got to heal up, be ready to fly in time to make this major trip to Puerto Vallarta. And what am I going to do? Well, after the surgery, I'd been on the system for about 5 months at that point. After the surgery, I went in. They said they wouldn't remove the drains before 10 days. They had to be done in 10 days. And I had to do all this tracking of the fluids that were coming out from the drains. And so I did all of that, and it was down to the point where they said they could remove them. So I went in, and the nurse did not want to remove the tubes because She said she'd never had anyone have them removed that soon. And after all, I was like 58 at the time, 57 at the time. And she was like, there is no way someone your age who has an obesity problem and had just had this surgery is ready to have their drains removed at 10 days. She looked at all the stuff. She looked at the wounds. She called the doctor. The doctor said, pull them. Less than a week later, I was on a plane and going to Puerto Vallarta, where I did zip lining and all the hiking involved in zip lining. Now, remember in March, so that was in like September, in March of that year, I had to use handrails to go up and down stairs. So in 5, 6 short months, by the time I made the trip, not only had I healed from the surgery much quicker, not only had the drains been pulled out, my visceral fat had been reduced drastically, the surgeons told me after surgery. And then I was able to go on this amazing trip, survive the zip lining. If you've never been, there's a lot of hiking going on. So would I have been able to do that 6 months prior with all the inflammation and the pain that I was in? Absolutely not. Anyway, getting inflammation down definitely helps, but there's a number of ways that we can cause inflammation, and they're not all immune responses. So some of these other injuries that don't have infection involved can cause inflammation. Your muscle cells and your fat cells have inflammation markers in them that when they start to shut down, you're becoming more insulin resistant. It's important to understand that excess fat, the more excess fat you have, it's turning the mitochondria into, basically they're doing too much work, and that's causing inflammation within the cells. And those cells are now becoming like an endocrine factory where they're producing more estrogen than necessary. Men end up with man boobs and love handles. That's a long other story. But your fat cells, the bigger they become, the more inflammatory they become. So having a lot of excess fat, whether it's visceral fat or subcutaneous fat, can be causing amounts of inflammation in your body. So yeah, what are you supposed to do when you're insulin resistant and you're filled with inflammation? The two best things you can do are address your inflammation in all the ways possible: hydration, sleep, move your body, get it moving, and address the amounts of sugar and the way your body responds to sugar. That's going to help you tremendously. Now, if you're inflamed and you're insulin resistant, you have to, this is the hard truth. Like I talk about, I get to have cupcakes every once in a while. I get to have these other things. The truth is, if you have high amounts of inflammation, you're going to have to cut the sugar back even more until you get some of these things under control. Intermittent fasting is going to be key in all of that. Intermittent fasting is going to help you get into a slight state of autophagy, where your cellular turnover is going on, where you're getting rid of some of these cells that could be causing inflammation, where you're reducing the fat, and that is all helping. Now, let's get back into why insulin resistance and inflammation are so highly linked. Let's see if I can pull up all of these notes that I have. Again, this is such a big topic, you guys. I appreciate you showing up today, but there's so many pathways. I did a search on, okay, what are the inflammatory pathways? My mind is blown. Can't even go into that. I'm more than happy to put it in a blog post so you can go read those markers, but there's no way I'm going to talk about that today. Just know there's a ton of pathways that your body has to respond to inflammation and oxidative stress in your cells. But the more active those are, the less responsive you are to insulin. And that's causing even more of a problem. So as the insulin resistance is up and the blood sugars are up, you're causing more shutdown in the cells, which is causing more inflammation and often more of that oxidative stress that's causing problems. So it is very bidirectional. So yeah, gutter girl. Crazy, isn't it? Crazy. So, and I have looked up a lot of these things for different people, but these are all commonly known to be linked to insulin resistance. Again, don't have my book here because I've been studying in it, but there's a book called Why We Get Sick. Almost all of these, I think all of these things are listed in that book and how they're linked into insulin resistance. Now, not all of them are caused by insulin resistance, okay? Some of them are bidirectional. The worse they get, the worse your insulin resistance gets. The worse the insulin resistance gets, it triggers this condition. Is the condition caused by insulin resistance? No. Is it triggered by it? Yes. Some of them are caused by insulin resistance, like high blood pressure. Kidney failure is often caused by insulin resistance. Liver problems and gallbladder problems. Gallbladder is actually, there's two reasons why you would have cholecystitis or gallbladder problems. And that is your bilirubin dysfunction, which has nothing to do with insulin resistance. But the other piece is insulin resistance definitely causes those gallstones and those gallbladder problems. And I've gone over that in other talks. So yeah, all of this is listed. And here's the thing, if you're suffering with more than a couple of them and you're batching them all together going like, hey, I have acne, I have kidney or liver disorders, I have skin tags, I'm losing my hair, I have vertigo, I have arthritis. Oh man, you might just want to take a look at the fact that you're probably insulin resistant, and understand that when you start to get the insulin resistance under control, all of that will start to get better. I always talk about the sugar control. We're going to talk about inflammation control all morning this morning. And then I'm going to talk about the two pieces of the protocol that I did to reverse my diabetes and insulin resistance and help me with all of this stuff, because each one of them attacks inflammation in their own way as well. So it's not just about hunger control or blood sugar control. Both of the products in their own way attack inflammation. And that is part of why it's so great for things like diabetes and insulin resistance. It's not just a one piece approach like berberine or turmeric or whatever. These are giving us a well-rounded approach to oxidative stress and inflammation. We're going to go over that in just a second. That's not what causes gallstones. A bilirubin disorder, yes, and sugar that's causing sludge in the gallbladder, so that is thickening up and causing stones. It's a sugar dysregulation that starts all of that dysfunction in a number of ways, and I've talked about it many times. And Dr. Bickman, metabolic scientist, talks about it very specifically in his book, that those are the two main causes of gallstones. This is what he studies. I'm going to trust that. So yeah. In fact, like we talked about, what was it we talked about yesterday? Gout. And so there's a lot of misconceptions about gout. And in reality, there's a lot of new information coming out, and there's information from 30, 40, 50 years ago, even 20 years ago, that is now being disproven with new studies. And we're now seeing more clearly what's happening within the body. And the biggest causer is insulin resistance. So I'm not going to back down from that. I will do some more research on it. And if you have information for me, though, if you have information that's valuable that I can bring to everybody, I'm more than willing to hear that, ER nurse. But from the doctors and the scientists that I've listened to and the papers that I've read, those are the causes of gallstones. Okay. All right. So back to inflammation. And we're not going to go over all the pathways. Now, we talked about non-inflammatory or immune response inflammation, and that there's immune response inflammation, the too many eyes, immune response inflammation, and words that are too close together. My little brain is like, blah. And immune response inflammation. So we know that those are both happening, but the non-immune response inflammation, things like metabolic disorders. So this is where it's bidirectional. If we have insulin resistance, it's starting to cause more inflammation within the cells. And then that is just worsening the problem, because the inflammation is causing you to be less and less insulin resistant. But if you started with a metabolic disorder, you're causing inflammation in the body, and you've got to address that. So there's things like radiation exposure and toxin exposures that can cause this non-immune inflammation. And then foreign bodies like splinters or medical implants can cause an inflammatory response as well. So like every time I had a joint replacement, both hips and one knee, I now am half bionic. My family teases me. So I have a lot of metal in my body. That causes some inflammation as well. Now my body, with no gallbladder and no ability to to save up bile for use when I eat, that can cause an inflammatory response when I eat the wrong foods as well. So it's all around us, and it's one of the big pieces, although more complicated, it doesn't have to be, that we need to address to understand this whole pathway for insulin resistance. Then we have things like the burns or damaged tissues that are causing infection that we need to have this inflammation response to heal. All of that can trigger this response is making you more insulin resistant. When you have an injury, you automatically become a little less insulin sensitive as your body is healing. Um, because the energy is going to that area to take care of it. And so some of the other cells are becoming a little resistant as the energy is being diverted. And that's normal. We also see that when women are pregnant, the energy is being diverted from the mom into the baby. The baby at that point is kind of an inflammatory state in the mom, which I love babies, so I'm not saying anything mean or bad about them. But the truth is a mom becomes a little more less insulin sensitive when she's pregnant. So the energy can go to the baby. Similar things happening when you have energy or injury. And it's important to understand that at those times, your blood sugars may be higher as your body's getting energy to those cells. And so a raise in blood sugar, even on the system when you've had an injury, is normal. If you're not getting enough sleep, it's normal for your blood sugars to go up. If you've been around toxins or you've eaten the wrong foods, it's normal for your blood sugars to go up. Understand that if you want them under control, you've got to figure out what's causing the inflammation to get them back down. Now, there was there was another whole thing I had written up here, but let me see if I can find it. Sorry, I can't find the one set of notes I wrote up on. I just want to go over. So inflammation can show up in a number of ways. Like, if you have a joint that's starting to get red and swollen, that's inflammation. You have a red or swollen spot on your skin or a cut or a bruise, that's inflammation. Um, over Overheating something, a burn is going to cause inflammation. Being too cold is going to cause inflammation. If you're starting to have pain in an area that's unexplained, there's probably some inflammation going on in there. If you're losing function to areas of your body, there you might be having some inflammation going on there. So fever and fatigue can be signs. Changes in your blood, like the blood sugar levels going up. Now, when you have inflammation, one of the things that's happening is your body's increasing blood flow. It can increase your heart rate a little bit to get that blood flow to the cells that are inflamed and damaged. But remember, with insulin resistance, and if you haven't heard me talk before, hang out someday when I'm talking about heart disease, because there's 5 ways that insulin resistance is causing blood pressure, and a lot of them have to do with vascularity and blood flow. So now you have inflammation and you're already insulin resistant and have a high blood pressure. You're having a harder time healing, partly because you're not getting the vascularity to those areas so that the blood flow can get the necessary things in, like white blood cells and whatnot, to get that healed. If the blood flow is restricted, you're healing slower and the inflammation stays longer, causing more of the problem. If you're having digestive issues like IBS or Crohn's, that's an inflammatory state. Are you guys seeing how inflamed our bodies really are most of the time, and how damaging this has been to our whole life? And so joint pain and stiffness, that's a lot of inflammation. If you have worn out joints, arthritic joints, and that pain and inflammation going on with those, it's going to cause you to be a little bit more insulin resistant, as those cells that are inflamed are not getting in the energy they need. And then if you're getting skin rashes or purplish or reddish skin rashes, that's inflammation as well. So there's a number of signs that you're becoming inflamed. Those signs could tell you, hey, my blood sugars are up. Well, I have this inflammation part, or this inflamed part of my body going on. Let's address the inflammation, cut back on the refined sugars, right? And see how my blood sugars do in a few days. You guys got to take care of the whole body. Now, we know that inflammation and insulin resistance, and this has been, I'm going to admit, a very imperfect talk because there's so much information to get out. They're bidirectional. So let's look at the insulin resistance piece. Now we've talked about, okay, get sleep, take care of your body, take care of the foods that you're getting in, make sure that you know what you're around if it's causing you inflammation, whether it's relationships or environment or activities. Understand that addressing that is going to help. But now let's take a look at the other piece of sugar that's causing one of the bigger parts of insulin resistance. And when we talk about sugar, it's not just the white sugar that we're talking about. We're talking about even plants and vegetables. We're talking about specifically and most primarily grains and bagged boxed foods. You guys, grains break down to starches, and starches break down to sugars. So any of those foods are going to be a bit inflammatory in your body as well. Grains especially can be highly inflammatory as well as produce a lot of sugar in your body. It's why we see so many people do well on a gluten-free diet. Does it mean you have to be gluten-free? Does it mean you can't have grains? No, but if you're inflamed, you might want to take a look at if those grains are causing you problems. But the bigger thing that we do know is the sugar. So when you're looking at your produce, the smaller and denser actually is better nutritionally for you. Not green, not overripe, but the big, juicy, delectable foods that you're seeing on the grocery shelves now, those are less dense in nutrients and less dense in something called fiber that actually can help with all this inflammation and insulin response. Anytime you have a natural carbohydrate, it needs to be paired with fiber. Fiber is what protects us from the onslaught of that sugar, from that sugar hitting our system too quickly. And what we've done throughout history is remove fiber from our foods because let's be honest, how many of you guys, if you picked up a peach that was small and dense, crunchy and really hard to chew, a little bit bitter, would you want that or are you going to pick up the big one that's juicy, sweet, and like just drips down your face as you eat it? I'm going to say more than 9 out of 10 would pick up the big juicy peach. Let's see. Is it teammate? I don't know what teammate is. I mean, I know what my teammates are, but I don't know what teammate is. Do you have any knowledge on chronic myelogenous leukemia? Um, no, I don't. But let me write it down. So I'm more than happy to go look and see what I can find. Leukemia. Okay. Cotton candy. I'm going to write down your name too. If I can get this cotton candy. There we go. 8604. All right. I'll try and get a response to that. You guys, I do want to say too, I love that I can have these talks stay up like on YouTube and my Facebook page at Brilliant Health with Misha. But I've been wanting to for a lot of years have a blog where all of this research and information that I've gathered together, especially because the papers and the sources will be cited there. But I finally have the blog up. There's only like 4 or 5 posts in there now because it just got started, but it's on my link tree over here on Vibrant Living. So there's a blog post on psoriasis in there. There's a blog post on the topic yesterday, gout. There's a couple of blog posts on the system and any side effects that could happen with the system, any of that stuff. So check out the blog post. There will be at least 3 blog posts a week being going in there until it starts to build. If it says coming soon, that means there's no content in there yet. If it says go to posts, then there's at least a single post in that section. I tried to section out the blog into topics. And admittedly, those topics came from Dr. Bickman's book because he did such a great job of laying them out. So I'm just following his template. And so we'll put content in there, some of it based on his work, some of it based on the work of other people. But all of this information in a digestible, readable source will be in that blog now. And I appreciate you all for checking into that. All right. So let's get back to it. I do want to I want to get control of my life because I have so much work over here and I thought I had it organized and apparently I do not. So, All right. Let's get down to the system a little bit. We know that we need to reduce the blood sugar levels. We know we need to eat more. I'm going to go over the 6 simple tips, and I want to talk about the products. So, my 6 simple tips for insulin resistance, and a lot of this is going to deal with your inflammation too. These things will help with the inflammation. Get fiber in first before you eat, every time you eat. I'm going to explain fiber in just a minute, why that helps. Um, you want to prioritize protein. If you want to build more natural muscle, lean muscle, and remember, heart, liver, kidneys, intestines, those are all muscle tissues. You need protein to build that. That means we're going to still say right at about 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. That doesn't mean if you're 300 pounds and you should be 150 pounds, that you need to eat 300 grams of protein. No, it means you need to eat 150 grams of protein every day. That's going to help reduce the fat cells, reduce the insulin resistance, and get you healthier. Now, you need to combine it with some intermittent fasting and these other things. Just like I said, carbohydrates need to have fiber with them. Fats need to go along with proteins. When you're metabolizing protein, one of the key pieces that people miss are they're having high protein diets and low fat diets. And then we're starting to see a number of other issues with those people, especially things like rhabdomyolysis, where their muscle cells just actually kind of explode. Part of the reason for that, and this is just one action, is the membrane around the muscle cells, the protein, the membrane that's going around the protein is built up of fat. This is just one reason why we need fat. The less fat you eat, the more brittle and less flexible that membrane becomes. So now if you overwork and overpump that muscle, it's going to break through that now brittle and more thin membrane. We want a healthy membrane around our muscle tissues so that our muscles, all of our muscles, not just our skeletal muscles, can function properly. Fiber, protein, fats. Limit your carbs. Now, why all of this? Fiber is going to help you feel full before you even eat. Protein is the most satiating of the three macronutrients being protein, fats, and carbohydrates. Protein keeps you the fullest the longest, but it also spikes your insulin about less than half of what a carbohydrate does. Now you pair that protein with carbohydrates, that insulin spike is going to actually increase a lot. So we want to really try and keep like the sugary sauces and stuff off of the protein and eat it as clean as possible. Understand that that protein is going to keep you feeling fuller longer. It's going to give you building blocks. It's going to give you a lot of good for your body. Now, there's a lot of people who say you can't eat more than 50 grams of protein in a sitting. That's untrue. Um, the new research is showing that although you immediately only use 40 to 50 grams of that protein, your body will hold on to the other, say you ate 100 grams, it will hold on to the rest of that protein and it will utilize it over time. If you're eating way too much excess, then yeah, it can go into your fat cells, or you can just excrete it, putting a load on like your kidneys to get rid of that excess protein. So protein balance is huge. And if we're doing intermittent fasting, which is the next step, do some time-based eating, you have less opportunity to get that protein in. So it's even more important to focus on protein in your meals. This is what I've had to shift to over the last 3 years, and I actually really like it. Like oftentimes my breakfast is about 4 to 6 eggs. 6 eggs gives me close to the 50 grams of protein. I'll douse them with some different herbs, maybe some spices if I want, and salt and pepper. Sometimes I put like Montreal steak rub on there, something, anything with no sugar in it to give it flavor. I soft cook them. That's my breakfast. Sometimes I'll just do a couple of eggs and a meat, but right now I'm just diving into eggs. For dinner, like last night, I had chicken breasts wrapped around cheddar cheese and broccoli. And that was my meal. Do I eat a lot of vegetables? No, I typically have never eaten a lot of vegetables, and that's fine for my body. My inflammation goes down when I'm having less of them. Some people would swear that the vegetables help their body. Again, it's independent. I feel better when I'm eating less of all the other stuff and more of just the clean protein. So we need to do those things. Fiber first, protein, don't fear fats, limit your carbs. Now, carbs can be in your fruits and vegetables, right? Fructose, I want to talk about fructose, and we're going to talk about fructose a little bit more. I think I promised to talk about oils tomorrow. We'll talk about fructose on Thursday. But when we look at fructose, it's actually causing a load on your liver, and high amounts of fructose can actually cause more inflammation because of the load it's putting on the liver and the work that the liver's having to do. But it's also fructose, fruits are about half fructose and half glucose. So you're really pumping up your sugars in your bloodstream as well as putting a load on your liver. And that's not something we want to do. We'll get more into fructose on Thursday. But when we're talking about carbohydrates, it should be like the dark green leafy or dark green and above the ground vegetables, right? The root vegetables, they're great. I'm not saying you can never have them, but you want to limit them because you know they're going to turn into starches, which is going to turn into sugar. Or now, root vegetables are starchy, which means sugar in your system. Starches convert to sugar. So let's not confuse that. And the bottom line is these things are breaking down and it's causing glucose in your system. And root vegetables are going to cause more of that than green vegetables. So fiber, protein, fats, limit your carbs, do some time-based eating. And the last one is move your body. Got to move your body. You guys, there are so many apps out there. There's so many apps that it will cost you little or nothing to show you how to move at home on your timeline, 5 to 10 minutes at a time during the day, work up to 30 minutes a day. You can break it down, but you got to move your body. If you want your inflammation to go down, you have to move your body. If you're highly inflamed, causing too much stress is only going to increase the inflammation. So gentle exercise is what's best. Like I said, I use one called Walk Fit. It's been great. Melba, you might want to try. Any of the rest of you who are experiencing a lot of pain, just don't feel like going out and facing everyone at the gym. Do something like that. By the way, YouTube, it has a plethora of little exercise routines that you can do at home. And it doesn't matter which one is the best. Move your body. Just move. Okay. I want to see if I've got to check. Do I have O blood type? Right. Yes. So, and I agree with that. So, do I have O blood type? I've been looking into the blood type diet, and O needs a lot of protein. Man, I read that book years ago. I actually would love to reread it. I have the concept of the blood type diet down, and you're absolutely correct. I'm O positive. So yes, that's going to mean that I need more meat and far less of the fruits and vegetables than somebody else. Somebody with an AB type blood type might need more of a Mediterranean diet. Fruits and vegetables, some seafood, cut the grains, right? Or paleo, cut the grains. Other people with an A or B type might be far more vegetarian than other blood types. So it is important to know your blood type and understand what types of food that blood type thrives on. We all have different genetics, and so it's going to look different. I'm not going to tell you that everybody needs to do a carnivore diet or everybody better do a vegetarian diet and that's the only way to health. No. These pieces, like you just brought up, are amazing, and I agree with them very much that we need to pay attention to our genetics and what we're getting in our face for food and nutrition. If our genetics don't like it, it's just going to cause inflammation and some of these other things that we're talking about this morning in our bodies. So know your body, know your blood type, understand how foods are responding in you, and that's going to help tremendously. Where is my fiber coming from? That's a great question. So here, this is what I'm going to do. Now we're going to talk about the system a little bit. Okay. So this is what I do every day. I have a tea, which you guys have been seeing me sip on right here. And I have a fiber. I mixed my tea up in here so the glass is a little murky. But this is my fiber. Now, I believe in about 30 to 40 grams of fiber a day, and that's based on metadata analysis of about 37 grams of fiber being really beneficial and really making a change. But if you heard what I eat, where do I get fiber? Well, when I get fats, I love to add avocado. That has some great fibers in it. But realistically, I'm most days not getting a lot of fiber, right? So I add this in. This only gives me about 5 grams of fiber. I do it 2 to 3 times a day. That gives me about 15. And then I try to focus on getting fiber in other more whole food ways in between. I will be starting my cleanse, should be arriving this week. I'll be starting a month-long cleanse here soon. That cleanse that I use also has a fiber in it that has 27 different components, fibers and herbs and whatnot to help clean out my system. That's going to help. But this fiber is, I just put it, this is a little less water than I usually use. I just put it in here. And this is where I get my fiber. So if you have a diet that has more fruits and vegetables, you probably don't need to do 3 a day, but I would still do a couple of them a day, at least one. Soluble and insoluble fibers, it's going to thicken really quickly because I put too little water in here. It's actually really thick now. So let's get it down. Now, that is going in my gut, and it's giving me all of these actions, reducing inflammation by helping my gut microbiome. Your immune cells are held, 70% of them are held in your gut. When your gut is inflamed because it's full of negative bacteria fed by all that sugar and starches, then we have that inflammation then also leaks out to the rest of the body. The fiber goes in and feeds the good bacteria and starts creating something called short chain fatty acids. Those short chain fatty acids are cueing us to burn fat, to put out ketones, which are telling us to burn fat. And when we're in a fat burning state, we're reducing inflammation. There's a number of other benefits from this. I think because I'm running out of time, I do have some other things to get to. I will do a video on how fiber helps inflammation later this morning. That's one piece. That's where I get my fiber. And you guys, it works. So I talk about this every morning. You guys, this fiber has like one type of fiber in it. And it doesn't have, when I'm going to talk about how fiber helps reduce inflammation, this has those 7 different types of soluble and insoluble fiber. They're helping the inflammation. See how thick that is already? That's what's happening in my gut. It's coating my gut. It's helping me feel full. This just doesn't do that. It's one type of fiber, and that one type of fiber doesn't have all the research on reducing inflammation. So this is what I use. It definitely helps me with my acidic gut, my hunger, my cravings, my sugar levels. I know that right now the system is 2 tea and one fiber, but I still do at least 2 fiber a day. I do a fiber before I eat anything. Now, generally, I only eat 2 meals. Yesterday, I got busy and forgot to eat, so I had 1 meal. I didn't have the eggs for breakfast. I just had that chicken and broccoli. But yeah, that's what I do for fiber. It took you 2 years, but your neuropathy is significantly improved over where it was. Jason, yay! I have been thinking about you, buddy. Hey. So yeah, so his Jason was what, 190 pounds heavier 2 years ago when he started. The doctors wanted him to have gastric bypass surgery. He was miserable. His moods were, he was depressed and having problems, neuropathy, erectile dysfunction, a number of other problems. He's told me I could talk about these things. So I don't talk about people if I'm not allowed to, or they haven't said okay. But Jason has had tremendous recovery without any medications, and all he's done is the same system that I'm doing. And it's helped with all those things. 190 pounds, his neuropathy is better. And it's been crazy good. Now, we switched, and some of you don't know this, but we switched to 2 tea a day and 1 fiber. I didn't understand that at first, but in my own research doing stuff, I found all this metadata analysis. Metadata means many studies, but that were saying how this fiber, even though I had one just now, even if I ate in 4 to 5 hours, the actions that's going on in my gut, those short chain fatty acids, feeding the good bacteria, balancing out that gut, is going to help with the blood sugar spike even 4 to 5 hours later. I know that I'm riddled with inflammation. I know that I don't have a perfect diet. I know that I love to have cupcakes once in a while, or sometimes pancakes on the weekend with my grandson, or like I had the other day, a chicken sandwich, which meant a big old bun. So I just have the fiber before I eat every time to help my gut microbiome, help keep that inflammation down by keeping my gut clean so that my immune cells can respond more properly as well. If your body's producing immune cells, they go to your gut to be held, and your gut is inflamed and sick, those immune cells cannot respond. Keeping your gut cleaned up is one huge part of the process. Now, for inflammation, yerba mate has a number of antioxidants in here as an anti inflammatory response from the natural components in the tea. Both of these are real food. This has been curated so that it's um, 7 different soluble fibers, soluble and insoluble fibers. We'll talk about what those are. But it also has vitamins and minerals and plant substances that help reduce blood glucose levels, help reduce blood lipid levels, and it's been proven to help with healthy heart rate. So it's great for your cardiac system. It's great for your gut. It's great for your inflammation. It helps keep you full and it reduces blood sugars. Why would you not do this? This hasn't had all those studies on it to do that. The whole system costs about $5 a day, but this tea, it's also helping you stay full. Now, Dr. Huberman did a talk, and it's in the tea tab here on TikTok, but he talks about the actions in this that mimic GLP-1 or actually induce GLP-1 in your own system. And this, because it's so highly potent, can induce that by 70% more than standard diet or standard yerba mate. That's why I do this. Mental clarity, energy, satiety, and through those markers of the antioxidants, anti-inflammatory components in here, I'm helping my body with inflammation every time I drink this tea. Now, yes, I drink soda. Should I? No. Inflammatory? Yes. But if I have this or this causes inflammation, this reduces inflammation. Both of them taste great. One is building my health, one is not. If you're going to spend your money on putting something in your face, wouldn't you want it to be something that's helping you with inflammation, helping reverse it? Or are you going to be putting something in, and gosh darn it, I do it too. I still have soda once in a while, but I know I shouldn't. Okay. So $5 a day. This costs less than a can of soda. I would rather put this in my face than this and be building my health and reducing my inflammation and building my hunger. By the way, has anybody else, let me ask this, has anybody else noticed that when you drink soda, even like this is zero sugar, but anybody else notice when you drink a zero sugar soda or any soda, you actually get hungrier, you actually crave more sugar. I haven't talked about that a lot, but even with the sweeteners in here, there's an action in your body that's kind of kicking up some insulin that's cueing you to crave more sugar. So this is actually working against you in a number of ways, not only in causing more inflammation in the body, but causing you to crave more sugar, which is causing more inflammation. Again, it's a choice. It's a choice, this or this. Now, I was on the phone with a person yesterday and they said something brilliant because I get really inflamed. I'm autistic, and you say something, I'm going to be really direct and I'm going to just say stuff, right? That's me. But when people say, oh, it's too expensive, I get that. Like I say, okay, well, I was on 13 medications, $10 a copay. That's $130 a month, plus all the doctor's visits, plus all the stuff and the food. Like I go in my fridge right now and it's pretty darn clean. There's not a lot of junk food. In fact, I was wanting some junk food last night, and gosh, there was no food in the house for me to have junk food with. Great. But my food budget has actually gone down. My medication budget is a non-existent. I don't have one now. I don't have any prescribed medications, going from 13 to none. So to me, that makes up the cost, but I get it. Not everybody's financial situation is the same. Not everybody's going to find room to help their health, which is going to help their life. You guys, when you feel better, you do better. When your body's feeling better, your mental clarity is better, you perform better at work, you just have an easier time getting to work. I don't know. Do you want to spend money on stuff that's making you more sluggish and brain fog and pain throughout your body, or you want to spend your money on something that's actually tastes good and is helping you? It's your choice. Okay. Insulin resistant related neuropathy. Oh my gosh. Insulin resistant is whew, we've talked about neuropathy a little bit, but through some inflammation, but also through this pathway of insulin resistance is affecting your neural pathways. So your nerve endings are malfunctioning with insulin resistance. They're not getting messages through in the right way. So you have these little caps on the end of your nerves, and they communicate this little space in between, and they communicate, hey, you, wake up, we got a message. This one takes it, passes it on. With insulin resistance, these are not able to function like they're supposed to. The messages aren't getting through. Sometimes the messages are actually kind of going out the side, and you get this weird electric pain. Insulin resistance is starting this. Neuropathy is highly related to insulin resistance. So get that under control, and your neuropathy goes away. That's what Jason was just saying. 2 years, and his neuropathy is almost gone. I had severe neuropathy and edema when I started. I don't have neuropathy or edema anymore. My now my left arm, I couldn't I couldn't hold a glass like this with this left hand. Now, going from somebody who was deadlifting close to 500 pounds, I had to have a lot of grip strength, right? But all of a sudden, I can't even hold a glass of water or much less pick up a jug of milk because the arm would fail. There was electric pain in this arm. It was just crazy. We did all kinds of scans to try and figure out what was happening with that left arm. My doctors were not able to figure it out. I started addressing my insulin resistance. The neuropathy went away. I can now clearly hold a glass of water. I can carry jugs of water. I don't have that grip strength problem like I had before. It was all getting my insulin resistance under control so that my nerves were responding so that I could actually have the messages going through the body at the right way. Now, that neuropathy also happens in your brain, and that's called brain fog, right? Messages and headaches, those messages are not getting through in the brain as well either. And so now you have that neuropathy in the brain. Okay. So it's absolutely highly related. Um, Kim Johnston, first time in your life not addicted to soda. So my issue with soda, let's be real. My issue with soda has everything to do with my ADHD. It's a dopamine issue, not necessarily sugar issue. So I'm trying to find other ways to address my dopamine needs other than soda. And it's pretty typical with ADHD people to be addicted to the soda because you get the sweet and you get the caffeine, and that's giving you a huge dopamine hit. By the way, ADHD people, our life seems to be all about searching for that dopamine because we just don't produce it like normal people. So it's a struggle for me, and I try to be open about that. Am I imperfect? Hell yes. Do I work every day to do the best I can? Yes, I do. Does it mean I have to be perfect every day? No, it doesn't. It just means that I'm human and I'm doing the best I can. And that's what I think I would love for you guys to shift to. Do the best you can. Stop beating yourself up when you don't do the perfection. Okay. Really, there is no perfection in life. We're all here on our journey doing our thing. Okay. Inflammation and insulin resistance are highly related. That blog post is going to take me a few days to write because it was so intense, the information. But by the end of the week, I will have a blog post in the blog about inflammation, insulin resistance, how inflammation causes insulin resistance, how insulin resistance causes inflammation, the two products, the tea and the fiber, and how they're helping with inflammation, and how basically addressing insulin resistance can help your inflammation. But this one I'm going to say is very, very, very two-sided. If you want your insulin resistance down, you've also got to take care of the inflammation, right? Hydrate well, sleep well, stay away from toxic people. If you got toxic people in your life, yeah, as nobody says we have to keep them around. Do they have a right to live and do their thing? Yeah. Do we need to wish them harm? No. Do we need to have them in our life causing inflammation and trauma? Hell no. Cut them out. Just, uh, just do it. I spent too many years allowing negative people in my life because I was afraid to let people go. Those toxic situations, those toxic people were causing so much more inflammation throughout my body than I can ever explain. So take care of your inflammation, take care of your insulin resistance, take care of your insulin resistance, take care of your inflammation. Work together to get them both down, and you're going to start to feel much better. But I hope that that makes some sense. Now, I did have a question yesterday, and I will message this person directly. Somebody said they've been on the system for about a month now, and they're having some nausea. Now, the tea I find, because I have a very acidic stomach. If my stomach is super empty and I'm drinking too much tea or too quickly, I can get nauseous too. It's because the tea is so highly concentrated and delivering so much at once that some of us can have a harder time dealing with it than others. So my suggestions are this. You might want to add a pinch of salt, Celtic salt, Himalayan salt, something in here. That's going to help with headaches, but it's also going to help with the electrolytes you're needing for your stomach. Also, dilute it in more water. I often dilute my tea in 20 to 30 ounces of water, and then I sip on it. The one that I drink in the morning generally that's hot, I don't get nauseous from whatever it is. With the heat, I don't get as nauseous. So you could try drinking it hot and see how that goes. I tend to get more nauseous when I'm drinking it cold, but if I mix it in more water, then that helps. That has to do with everything with my own genetics and how my gut is. The other tip that I do, if I'm feeling like I need energy, but I'm nauseous, I'll do what I just did. I just have a balance before I drink the tea. Nausea is gone. So there's that, and I will respond to that person. You guys, I do try to help as much as possible. I'm switching up the messages I'm sending to people when we get started. So there's going to be a ton of messages, and it's all about the system and why it works and whatnot. And I look forward to helping you guys. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about seed oils and how they're causing inflammation, okay, how they're causing insulin resistance, and how damaging they are to your body. So it's not just about sugars, right? We've got to address these other things as well if we really want to get better. It's like saying, I drive my car every day. I never need to replace the tires or check the exhaust system or change the oil. All I got to do is put gas in and everything is good. Our bodies are no different. It's a multi approach to our health, multi-level approach to our health, and that's important. So address sugars, address your inflammation. Let's get you healthy. We'll talk tomorrow about seed oils, Thursday, fructose, and then Friday is open for whatever anybody wants me to talk about. But we'll see you in the morning. I gotta go. I love you all. Thank you for being here with me. If you're interested in the system, just use the link in my bio here on TikTok, and I'm going to drop it over for everybody on TikTok. Normally, I just drop the direct link to purchase over there, but I'm going to put the link to my link tree. I have an updated website. It's much simpler. One simple page on the Feel Great system that should help you understand it better. Links to order, and then information about my journey. So check out the website, but absolutely check out the blog. As I do these posts every day, we'll be doing blog posts to go along with them. So you can come back and find all this information later and not have to listen to me chat for an hour. Guys, I appreciate you all. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a blessed day. Melba, let's chat sometime. I haven't got to talk to you in a while, and I miss your voice. We'll see you soon. Bye.